The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. Sometimes I wish that you guys could see the behind the scenes and what's happening. And for a second we thought that you were, because massive technical issues this morning where we didn't know until about 35 seconds ago that we were going to be able to be live on the air. I just want to thank our fabulous producer, Traven Hardy, for toughing it out this morning and figuring it out, plus the wonderful IT team here who kept working on the issue because we're here. But if you could have seen the scurrying and the, there was some scurrying happening. It's intrigue that was happening in order to get us here this morning, but it's worth it because we're here and we're excited to be here. And we've got so much to talk about today. It's going to be spectacular. So I'm Shannon Penrod, and for those of you who don't know, we're coming to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for Autism Live. It is also the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. Thrilled to be here, coming to you from their studio. We're going to be with you for the next hour live, talking about autism from a 360-degree perspective, because we know that it's not a one-size-fits-all, that you're coming here and you're the person who's on the autism spectrum and you're looking for information. Maybe you're a parent, you're a teacher, you're a practitioner, you're a grandmother, an aunt, a boyfriend or girlfriend to someone who's on the autism spectrum, and you are here because the one thing that we all have in common is that we care deeply about individuals on the autism spectrum and having them get to the resources that are helpful to them, as well as being treated with the dignity that they deserve, right? I mean, across the board, we all can agree on that. So we try to give you as much inspiration and information as we possibly can, and there are lots of different ways to connect with us, to ask questions and raise concerns, or to complain or vent, or whatever it is that you would like to do. We appreciate all of your interactions. So the fabulous Traven is already showing you some of the different ways that you can participate. And while he shows you those many ways, I want to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. Our website is fairly new, so hopefully we worked out all of the bugs, but if you see that something doesn't connect to something, please let me know. There are lots of different ways that you can watch our content on that site. It's all free. When you ask questions, especially if you're asking on the live chat, which it says chat on the bottom of the homepage. If you click on that, it opens up a box and it's totally anonymous. Of course, when you post things on YouTube and Facebook, people can see what account you're posting from. But when you post on our live chat, the only person who can see it is me, and I can't see where you're coming from. So the only thing we do ask is that you include what the closest major city is so that I can have an idea of what resources might be available to you, because it's not a level playing field. Wish it was. But we're thrilled that you're here, and we hope that together we can help to get to maybe more questions, but maybe some answers and maybe some resources and hopefully some inspiration. You know what I always like to say? We hold hands, we get there together. Si se puede, right? Okay, so I was up last night watching things unfolding in Puerto Rico. I was born in Puerto Rico, as many of you may know, and so watching to see what was happening there. Some very turbulent times in Puerto Rico, but looks like a new leader getting ready to take over. So was keeping my eye on that, but that's why I say si se puede, right? Okay, so we like to start our, first of all, I want to remind you that we have lots of experts on the show. Guess who is not one of them? Me. I am not an expert in the field of autism. I am an autism mom, a very proud autism mom, and I have what I like to refer to now as an informed opinion. That is how I'm describing myself. Someone with an informed opinion, because I've been covering autism from a journalistic point of view for over a decade now. So I will say that I've picked up some resources and learned a few things along the way, but I'm still not an expert. Have an informed opinion. And I hope that you will write in and ask our experts questions. You know I weigh in a lot of the time with my informed opinion, and hopefully that's not too obnoxious. But if you also have questions for my informed opinion, I'm always happy to give my informed opinion. When and I'm not afraid to tell you, I have no idea when I have no idea. But then that sparks an idea for me to have somebody on the show when there's something that I have no knowledge about and go, oh, we should have them on the show and talk about that. Okay, so in any case, which by the way, can I just mention that on tomorrow's show, you want to talk about experts. Oh, for heaven's sake, on tomorrow's show, we have Dr. John Pruitt on, who is the lead investigator on the, I'm trying to think what it's called. It's called IBIS, which stands for Infant Brain Scan something or other. But they're finding out interesting stuff. So I can't wait to talk to him tomorrow with Nancy. So definitely tune in for that. But on today's show, we've got a wonderful expert that we had her scheduled a couple of weeks ago, and I had some health issues. We had to reschedule her, Elizabeth Rozaki. I'm not sure if I'm saying her name right. She's going to be joining us in a little while. But in any case, just wanted to make the point, while not an expert, we have experts on the show, and I'm happy to give you my opinion, but I'm not an expert. Having said all of that, and that was a mouthful, we like to start every Thursday morning with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym, and we try to figure out what in the hey nani are those experts talking about, and what does it have to do with us, and really, do we really have to learn this term and understand what it means? And sometimes we don't have to understand it backwards and forwards, but a lot of times it saves us time and money. But it's hard to learn a whole new set of jargon, right? I swore that I wasn't going to do it, and then I realized it was costing me time and money, and that learning these terms would save me time and money and help my kid make progress. So that's why we give it to you a little bit at a time. We give you the actual definition. I then make fun of the definition because really, what other choices are available to you? And then we give you a working definition, which generally makes the experts break out into hives, which I also find enjoyable, I'm just admitting. But hopefully you get enough of a sense of going, oh, well, that makes sense to me, right? And over time, I will tell you, you turn to the dark side and then you start using these terms. So you can see, I like to do my little Carol Merrill, wrong side. You can see that our term today is non-contingent reinforcement. Doesn't that sound like fun? So let's take a look at what the actual definition is for non-contingent reinforcement. A procedure in which stimuli with known reinforcing properties are presented on a fixed time or variable time schedule. Dun, da, da, da. What? Who knows what that means, right? No one knows what that. There are psychology students who don't know what that means. Moving on, let's take a look at what our working definition for it is. Non-contingent reinforcement. The child is given reinforcement on a schedule regardless of whether they have demonstrated a behavior or not. Okay, so think about what the word contingent means. Well, you're talking to your child and you say, you can go to the football game contingent on you cleaning your room. So it's, if you give me this, then you can have that. Contingent means if this happens, then this can happen, right? And most of the reinforcement that we talk about, there's a contingency, right? So if they do a certain behavior, then we reward them, right? We talk about that a lot on the show. But there are times when we don't use contingent reinforcement. There are times and places where it works better to give a reinforcement on a regular basis, and sometimes we just say, we're going to give it all the time, and sometimes we say we're going to give it every 5 minutes because it depends on what's happening, and there are reasons why we give this reinforcement. So let's give an example. A lot of times, non-contingent reinforcement is the answer when we find that getting attention is the function of the behavior. So let's think about a classroom, and let's think about a kid who constantly is acting up in the classroom, and they're throwing stuff, and they're, making faces and doing spitballs and whatever. And you have the BCBA come in and look at it, and he or she looks at it and puts it in different circumstances and asks questions, and they look at it and they go, this is only happening when other kids are there and they can get attention from the other kids, right? This kid is seeking attention from the kids and or the teacher, because he doesn't do it when nobody else is around. If we put him with one teacher in the library and have him work on something, there's no spitballs, there's no, right? So we go, it's about the attention. So it's really impossible to go to a group of kids in a classroom and go, hey, we're going to do an intervention with Johnny, and we want for none of you to give attention when he does X, Y, and Z. You can say that to a group of kids, but they're not going to be able to follow through on it, right? And the thing about attention is that when there is a need for attention, you will do whatever you have to do to get the attention. Doesn't matter if you get good attention or bad attention, by the way, because attention is attention is attention, right? I always say pick up a tabloid if you're not sure on that. Attention is attention. It's that thing about people saying there's no such thing as bad press. Attention is attention, right? So what we want to teach the child how to appropriately get attention, and we want to teach them to find good attention reinforcing. So what we might do is take a baseline and see how long can this kid go before, if they aren't getting attention, that there is a deficit. I think of them as empty buckets. How long before this kid's bucket is empty and he has to pull somebody's hair in order to get the attention? And we might find that this kid, 4 minutes, and if he doesn't get attention, he's doing something to get attention. Okay, great. So we set our timer at 3 minutes. And every 3 minutes, before he's an attention deficit, before his bucket is full, we put stuff in his bucket. So every and there are teachers that have little watches that buzz at them every 3 minutes when they've got a kid like this. And so the watch buzz, and the teacher says, hey, Johnny, I love what you're doing there. That's good work, right? And he gets the attention. Now his bucket goes, and he's there. And now he can go another 3 minutes. And 3 minutes later, the teacher says, good work, Johnny. The bucket is full, right? And so what we're doing with this, and by the way, he wasn't really doing anything. He just was doing whatever. And no matter what he was doing, we're going to give him good attention. Even if he's doing something that isn't proper, we're going to go over and say, hey, how about together we turn to page 45? Right? And we give him some attention, ruffle his hair, whatever. He didn't have to work for that attention. We're just giving it on a regular basis so that his bucket doesn't get empty. Because even though that seems, I'm a former teacher, classroom teacher, and it seems like, oh gosh, with everything else I got to do, I got to be on a schedule that I got to, give this kid reinforcement and attention every 3 minutes. But you know what? You find it's so much easier. It's so much easier to every 3 minutes go, good job, than it is to go, why are you pulling her hair? Now you got to go sit over here, and now she's crying, and when are you teaching, right? It takes a second, and now you got 3 more minutes. And by the way, then when we get him, stable at 3 minutes, then we change the watch and we go to 3 minutes and 20 seconds and see, can he go 3 minutes and 20 seconds? He should be able to, because his baseline was 4 minutes. But then we go to 4 minutes and 20 seconds, and then we go to 5 minutes. And then we find that if we just twice a day tell him what a good student he is, that he can manage his behaviors and not feel like nobody's paying attention. Now, while we're doing this, we also teach this kid how to appropriately ask for good attention, right? So we're working this from many different angles, but non-contingent reinforcement is often very effective at getting to a behavior that's slippery and that you can't get to it otherwise. Attention is that way. There are other things that, my gosh, I was at a doctor's appointment the other day and I just wanted to get up and talk to the dad that was there with his 2 kids. Mom had gone into the doctor's appointment and dad was sitting there with his 2 kids that were probably like 6 and 8. And the 8-year-old was sitting there and she was bored. There were no magazines for kids, there were no toys for kids, and dad was on his phone playing a game, right? And the kids are bored, and the 6-year-old is yakking at dad. And then he starts picking at dad, and he's doing all of these different things. And dad kept turning and saying, "Stop it. Why are you doing that? Stop it, stop it, stop it. I don't want to talk about this right now. That's not appropriate here." But leaving the kid to do nothing, right? Whereas if he had just been using non-contingent reinforcement from the minute he walked in the door and giving those kids attention and praise before they got bored, and not being on his phone entertaining himself and expecting them to have the skills to be able to entertain themselves without a phone. I mean, it was epic and he was frustrated and he knew he was failing, and I just wanted to go sit by them and say, "I spy with my little eye something blue." Because I knew that those kids would be right as rain if you just played a little game with them. But this poor dad, and neither one of these kids was on the spectrum, by the way. Clearly, neither one of them was on the spectrum. But I felt bad for dad because he didn't have the tools. But non-contingent reinforcement is a great thing for maintaining behavior, especially when you're in a place when you don't have control over a lot of the variables. So, non-contingent reinforcement, it's a really good thing, especially when your kid is a attention seeker, right? Okay, moving on. We always have a question of the day, and our question for you today kind of goes with what we're talking about, is what keeps you motivated? Like, what really is the thing that keeps you on track? Because it's different for different people. I just was talking the other day about that. I found early intervention really hard. I really struggled with a lot of different things. I struggled with not having control over my own schedule. I struggled with having to have a bunch of younger people come and be on our team and to kind of co-parent with them to make decisions. Although ultimately, we had the decision, but we had to be a team. And I struggled with that. And I struggled with the fact that people were in my house. There were so many aspects of this that I struggled with. I struggled with the financial part of it. I struggled with the fact that I had had all these hope and dreams for my son, and this was not how I had pictured this period of time with him. That was really hard for me. Really, really struggled with it. But the thing that kept me motivated and kept me going, and that my team kept reminding me of, is that I had a picture in my head. I had a picture in my head of my son standing in a cap and gown, and me saying to him, looking him right in the eye and knowing that I was telling him the truth and saying we did everything we could. And him saying to me, "Mom, I'm off to change the world." Man, I had that picture so firmly in my head, and anytime it got tough, I pulled that picture up and focused on that picture, and I lose it on a daily basis because we are a year and a half away from that cap and gown. It just freaks me out, and I have no doubt at all that we're going to get there, and because he could already do it now. It's just a matter of being in the cap and gown, and I can look him in the eye and say that we've done everything, and I know that he's already out changing the world. So I tell you, you got to have things that motivate you and keep you motivated. I'm trying to start working out right now, and I'm trying to find something that will keep me motivated. But just between you and I had to be put on insulin a month ago, and they just took me off the insulin 2 days ago, and I can only stay off the insulin if my blood sugars. So I was on the elliptical this morning going, I don't want to do those shots anymore. And for today, that's motivating me. But we all have to have things that motivate us. So what keeps you motivated? And are you keeping it in the forefront of your brain? That's the big question. All right. We've got a great show for you today. In just a few minutes, we're going to be joined. What did I forget? I didn't do the topic. For heaven's sake, if Traven weren't here, we would run amok. So the topic of the week, let's take a look and see. It's making it fun. Because here's the other part of it is that you got to stay motivated, but it's no one, I don't care, like I could have every picture of everything in my head of him in a cap and gown, but we had to make it fun. You have to make it fun. I have to be able to make the elliptical fun. I listened to some fun music today, right? Because that's what makes it fun for me. You gotta make it fun. If you think you're just gonna muscle your way through, you're gonna miss a big part of the equation. It's got to be fun. This is your life, not where you're arriving at later. As much as I looked at and was like, we're gonna get to that day with a cap and gown, right? Every moment that up to now and every moment from now till then is our life. Life is not about a destination. It's not like everything's going to stop on the day that he graduates at all. So you got to enjoy the ride. You got to be able to make it fun. Nobody's going to make it fun for you unless you live with fabulous people. I do. But you've got to make it fun too. Making it fun. We're going to talk about that more in a little while. But on the show today, we have great expert Elizabeth Rosiaki. I'm sure I'm saying her name wrong, but she's going to be here with us answering your questions, and we are going to have time for a mindfulness moment. We are absolutely going to do that. But before we do anything today, I got to tease a little bit, and then we're going to show a wonderful video. There's a wonderful new place here in Los Angeles that we've been talking a little bit on the show, the Ed Asner Family Center. And they have something really unique and remarkable happening during this summer. It's Camp Ed. And I've had the opportunity to go over and see some of the things that they're doing. And by the way, it's Camp Ed that's happening in for the first time in their forever home. It's amazing. This facility is just, what is it you young people say, off the hook, off the chain? It's off the, I don't know, it's off the world. It's wonderful. And so we had Matt Asner and Nava Paskowitz Asner make a lovely little video for us to talk about the camp. And there are spots open for the last 3 weeks. So if you know somebody who needs a camp situation, you really need to at least 1 week, if not all of the last 3 weeks. So take a look, and we'll be right back after this.
Hi everyone, welcome to Camp Ed 2019. And we are so excited because this is our first camp where we're in our new home. We have an incredible ballroom dance class going right now, so let's come and take a look.
Camp Ed at the Ed Asner Family Center is an inclusive arts camp featuring some of your favorite arts programs. We have a little over 3 weeks of camp left. We want you to come and join the excitement.
Hi, I'm Nava Paskowitz Asner, the co-founder of the Ed Asner Family Center and the founder of Camp Ed. And I'd like to introduce you to Andrew Pascal, who is my new camp director for 2019.
We have a very action-packed last 3 weeks of camp. Next week we have Art Week, where we're going to do a color run. We're going to get really colorful. We're going to tie-dye some clothes. The week after that, we're doing Heroes Week, where we're going to talk about heroes as well as fictional superheroes. Our last week is Surf Week and Celebration Week. And Nava, can you tell us a little bit about Surf Week?
Yes, definitely. This is my favorite day of the entire summer. We're going to be working with the amazing surf therapists of A Walk on Water, and they're just going to give us a great day, beach, fun, just a really wonderful, safe day. Please come join us at Camp Ed 2019.
Yeah!
Woo-hoo!
To join us for a week or the next 3 weeks, call us at 818-302-0712. Once again, that's 818-302-0712. Camp Ed and the Ed Asner Family Center were created by our family for your family.
Well, I'll be hornswoggled.
Hey, I'm Candace Cameron Bray.
Tom Bergeron.
You're watching Autism Live.
And you're watching Autism Live.
And you're watching Autism Live.
You're watching Autism Live.
Do you provide care services to someone with autism? Recently, more and more children are being diagnosed with the condition and getting the support they need as awareness grows. But what happens to these children as they grow up? It's estimated that over 500,000 youth with autism will turn 18 in the next decade, and they'll be faced with a very difficult reality. As children with autism grow up, their services start to disappear or become very difficult to access. Things like medical care, mental health counseling, vocational training, and more. All services that are still desperately needed. The loss of support that youth with autism face as they grow up is so severe that it's referred to in the autism community as falling off a cliff. Adults with autism need the same level of support they had as children to avoid falling off the services cliff. Introducing Skills Living, the web-based software designed specifically to help transitioning youth and adults with autism so they can avoid the cliff and instead fly to success. With Skills Living, help your learner with autism develop the skills they need in all the critical areas of adult life, including self-control, planning, and problem-solving, effective communication, performing life skill tasks for independent living, acquiring and maintaining employment or other meaningful activities, developing and maintaining social skills and relationships, accessing transportation and public services, and being safe. Skills Living includes a comprehensive assessment, a data collection mobile app, behavior intervention plan builder, and automatic progress reporting. It also provides a complete curriculum addressing 16 key areas spanning the entire range of functioning adulthood. Skills Living is easy to use and can be implemented by schools, parents, and autism service providers. Call or click today for your free demo and see how Skills Living can help your learner with autism avoid the cliff and instead reach their fullest potential. Skills Living. Wish, learn, become.
Can you have a life with autism? Absolutely not. Give it up right now. No, that's not true. I'm here to tell you, you can have a life with autism. I have a life with autism, and it's a good one. When you start on this journey, you don't know what's going to happen. You really have no idea. You're kind of in shell shock for the first couple years. It could be as long as 5 years until you realize, I do matter to people. When my son was first diagnosed, I remember thinking I would go anywhere and do anything for him. I didn't even think about it. I just came way at the bottom of the list. However, after a few years passed, I realized if I'm not important anymore, then that means no one's going to be here for him. So how do you have this life with autism? It's not easy. It's never going to be easy, but it can be done. It's really all about support. And support is a word you're going to hear a lot when you deal with the autism power structure. And that means schools, government agencies, social service agencies that can help you. There are things out there that you don't even know exist. So once you start connecting with other parents, you're going to kind of find this treasure chest full of things that only they can help you unlock. But once you get that support, it could be a babysitter coming to your home. It could be a therapist to take your child out and get him into the community. You can either leave the house, do your shopping, go to a farmer's market, do whatever you want to do. And it doesn't matter if it's really only about 5% of your time. As long as it's dedicated to you, that's going to help. It's all about your willingness to find support and your willingness to accept change and your willingness to kind of stick up for yourself because you're battling for your child and you have to realize you guys are connected. There's a bond between you and your child that can never be broken. And if you're doing well, then your child's going to do well. So finding what you need to be happy, whole, and healthy as a person is a way that you can have a life with autism. And that's important too, because if you have a life with autism, you can also give your child a life too.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We have joining us from the phone, so you're going to see a picture of her, but we have Elizabeth Roshaki. I was getting the name slightly wrong, but I've got it now, Elizabeth Roshaki, and she is joining us from Illinois. Elizabeth, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Shannon.
I'm thrilled to have you. Can you start by telling our audience at home what you do at the Center for Autism and where specifically you do it?
Yeah, so I'm the lead clinical clinical manager for our Naperville location in Illinois, and I oversee the clinical quality of our local center as well as developing our staff and providing mentorship.
Wonderful. And we've got a beautiful picture of you. Fabulous. So, Elizabeth, we've got a couple of questions here for you. The first one is, I have a client who is constantly touching everything in his environment. He does this in all environments. For example, at the dentist's office, he used to touch things on the receptionist desk as well as the dentist's tools. This no longer occurs after mom started taking along highly reinforcing activities to do while waiting. Unfortunately, during a typical day, he continues to touch everything. He goes into his parents' room, goes through their cabinets, goes into teacher's room at school, reads the papers. In general, he has a hard time with inhibiting, which we are working on. Any suggestions?
Yeah, I'm really happy to hear that they're already working on inhibiting those behaviors as well as bringing along reinforcing activities when they're out in the community. But that sounds like it's still a bit of an issue at home and throughout just the daily life for this child. So working on play skills, task completion skills, functional pretend play, replacement behaviors can go a long way. Looking at what activity can we keep busy with for 10 minutes and be productive while mom and dad are able to cook or pay bills or get something done that they need to get done.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for boredom, right? I just was talking to them about being at the doctor's office the other day and watching a dad in the waiting room with his son and his daughter. Dad was on his phone and playing on his phone, so he had something to prevent him from being bored, but there was no magazines for kids. The thing that was on the television was a very dry explanation of what they do in a colonoscopy, which I don't know any kids that are going to be super interested in that. There was nothing for the kids to do. There was nothing for them to even look at. So the one little one just kept getting into trouble, and I kept thinking, why is the dad not getting that he would be bored if he were sitting there without his phone, but he has a phone and the kid has nothing. And eventually the kid started getting into things that he shouldn't get into in that room, and I thought, well, of course, because he's bored. He doesn't have anything else to do. There's nothing else to interest him. So I love the idea of teaching play skills to this little customer, and so that he has other things that interest him, because otherwise what else does he have to do but to go through everybody's stuff, right?
Yeah, we can't blame him. He's bored.
Yeah.
He has something to do.
Right.
If there is a sibling involved too, then including that sibling in some social play can be fantastic. From the example that you just gave, Shannon, having a couple of kids there getting bored together can create a lot of mischief.
Oh,
but if one child can take a little bit more of the lead and initiate an appropriate social game, that can keep both kids a little quieter and a little more patient out and about.
Yeah, there's some phrase about idle hands, or something mischief that my grandmother used to say. But my grandmother always used to say, make kids work and give them lots of things to do, and then they won't get into trouble. And I think that that's probably true for our kids as well as it is for, if they have something else to do, then going through the teacher's papers is not going to be more reinforcing once they know how to play a game and see what that reinforcement is. The next question was, I just got my summer schedule and my son has 2 brand new therapists on his team. I don't want new people learning the ropes on my child's time. What can I do to get more seasoned therapists?
Yeah, so this is a common concern that we hear as we continue to grow and onboard more therapists. They've got to start somewhere. So the first step to take is attending your open enrollment and communicating with your leadership team at the office, with your supervisor, the operations manager, clinical manager. We're all working together in Naperville right now to get schedules set for the fall schedule that we're switching to very soon. So this is really important to us, that we do hear the feedback from our families and any concerns that you have, but then working through that together and having that balance on your team. It's good to have balance. It's good to have therapists that are a little greener and then have some other therapists that have been around a little more seasoned, so that you can have a good mix of therapists on the team. But we do need to continue to grow therapists in the field and support them. So other things that you can ask for from your leadership team is, if I'm going to have these new therapists on my team, what is their support going to look like? How are you going to ensure that this is going to be the same quality of care as the other therapists that may have a few years of experience? And we can put together action plans for you so that you know what to expect in that training process, because they're probably already in place and you just aren't aware of them.
Yeah.
So definitely communication is key here.
Yeah, and I so appreciate you saying that. You know, I was this parent. I remember in the beginning, and I was like, well, I don't want the new therapist. I don't want for them to be learning the ropes on my kid. And when they would say things to me like, well, you know, they all have to start somewhere, I would think, yeah, but not with my kid. Right? Because we want what's best for our children, and usually best means I'll take the expert. Like if I have a choice between the new person who's going to do surgery on me and the expert, I would of course want the expert, right? It's just that that equation doesn't work in ABA. And what got explained to me, and I try to explain to parents all the time, is that you're trying to prepare your child for the world. And in preparing your child for the world, they're not going to just run into really exceptionally trained ABA therapists. And, you know, when you're getting your child ready for the world, you want them to be working with someone who's highly trained. And all card therapists are highly trained, right? They've had much more training than most of the people your child run into when they're at school. And I love the fact one therapist said to me, you know, we're trying to get your son ready for the day that he goes to 5th grade and he's in science class and the teacher has called in sick and they sent a substitute. And on that day, that substitute teacher is not going to know your son. He's not going to know autism. He's not going to know ABA. And we want your son to be successful on that day. So having only really experienced therapists is not doing your kid a favor. You need to have a bunch of different therapists doing things in a bunch of different ways. Yes, I hope that somewhere on your team you have a really experienced person, but you better hope that you have some newbies on the team, because otherwise your kid isn't getting the maximum, I feel, towards generalization. And you didn't hear at the beginning of the show, Elizabeth, I said, I'm not an expert in autism, but I have an informed opinion. And that I'm always very happy to share my informed opinion. But this is one of those things that I'm always so fearful about, because if parents don't know this, then they will keep asking for the most experienced therapist, not knowing that they're literally asking for something that would shortchange their child's progress. So I'm adamant about making sure that parents know, but I love that you're also offering them an action plan and showing them, look, this is how we are getting these people ready and trained to be with your child so that they can put their minds at ease, that they are highly trained, but you don't want only the most seasoned therapists on your team. That's not the choice.
And it's important to me that the families are comfortable. So with that action plan, we're doing overlaps with our therapists on a very regular basis and providing them with feedback and support and program updates. So the families don't always know what goes into that. So kind of reviewing that with the families can help put them at ease a little more to know that on the back end we have maybe the supervisor, assistant supervisor, clinical manager, therapist liaison. There's so many supports in place there that their child is going to really be successful.
Yes, I love that. And our last question, what can I do to help my son learn to soothe himself? He cries a lot, and I'm worried about this when he starts TK in the fall. TK, of course, being transitional kindergarten. And I think a lot of people worry about this, that we have some of our little guys, they are very emotional and they cry and it just breaks your heart and you want to soothe them, but you also want them to be ready to soothe themselves. So what do you have for us, Elizabeth?
Yeah, so this is kind of a tough one, because as an analyst I want a lot more information to be able to point this individual in the right direction. But I think what we really need to look at from the start is communication skills of your child. Is your child able to communicate why they're crying, why they're upset, to seek some additional support? And then also looking at cognition programming and teaching them to understand their own emotions, physical states, desires, and then those of other people as well, so that they can be more accepting of what other people are doing, as well as come to a compromise with people, which all sounds very complicated for someone going into TK, but really we have to start programming for that now and teaching that to all of our children at a very young age, how to manage their emotions. So really seeing where are they currently at, and then what skills do we need to be teaching. But I think the communication piece would be the most helpful as you're preparing for kindergarten and ensuring that your child is able to communicate their wants and needs to the staff, so that they can try and help facilitate in preventing any crying episodes.
Yeah. And I just want to throw in my 2 cents that I want to be clear that, gosh, I was raised a certain way, and I remember, even for me, but certainly for my little brother, that if we started to cry, we were always told, don't cry, stop that right now, there's no crying. And that I don't think that that's at all what you're talking about. And I know when we went through ABA, that there was an instance where we had gone to an event and my son had gotten a sword that was made of balloons. It was like one of those balloon sculptures, and it was involved. It wasn't just your, regular sword. It had like a handle, and it had all these, intricacies on it. It took the guy a long time to do. And we went to go get in the car, and it brushed up against the door, and the whole thing like popped and went to smithereens. And my son was just, we all stood there and just dinner plate eyes, and I wanted to cry, and my son started to cry, and my husband's initial reaction was to say to him, now don't cry. And he and I kind of looked at each other, and through some of the things that we had learned, instead we said, we labeled it for him. We said, you're feeling really sad right now. You're feeling really sad because your balloon, that's right, you're feeling very sad because your balloon popped. I'm so sorry. Yep, that thing that you're feeling right now is sad. You're really sad. And just kept labeling it for him. And not saying that it was good, bad, or anything, but this thing you're feeling right now, it's sadness. And within 30 seconds, he kind of rode the crest of it, and we're going to talk about that a little bit in our mindfulness moment coming up, but he rode the crest of the emotion, and he got to the other side, and finally he said, I am sad. And we said, yes, and it's appropriate to feel sad when your balloon breaks. That's a thing. You're sad when your balloon breaks. And he was like, yep, and he got in the car, and that was it. And he'd ridden the emotion, and I just wanted to throw in there that how important it was for us to learn that skill and labeling it for him so that he would know what he was feeling. Because for some of our kids, it's like there's this feeling and you don't know that it's going to have an end. You don't know if you're going to feel that way the rest of your life. But to have adults there saying, yep, this thing that you're feeling, it's sad, and have us not be panicked and not be trying to do anything else. I think it was so eye-opening to me as a person. I wish I'd been raised this way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and narrating for your child is so helpful for them in learning language and understanding the world around them. Just in general, that narration can be a really positive support for them. So narrating for them and helping them understand and label their feelings and emotions. And yeah, I don't think that there's any need to try and sugarcoat the world for our kiddos. Your balloon pops. Yeah, you're sad.
Yeah.
That's not fun.
No.
So letting them experience that emotion, because we want our kids to experience all the emotions that we do, even though some of them are less desirable. It makes them have a better understanding of the world.
Yeah. Well, and for me, that sort of culminated into years later when my son was watching somebody cry. It was a mom who was on a video crying about her son being in another room doing therapy, and the son was crying, so the mom was crying. We had a little discussion about it, and he said to me, "Mom, did you ever cry outside the room when I was having therapy?" I said, "Yes, because I was so worried about what you were feeling." And he said, "Oh, Mom, I was just frustrated," and nobody ever dies from frustration. This is how my son understands things now, and I was like, well, that's just brilliant. That's just that's just wonderful. And imagine if you can get all of us, if we could get the world to respond to our emotions that way and go, yes, I'm feeling frustrated right now, but I'm not going to die from it. This is an emotion, and the world is not going to cease to exist from it, and I'm entitled to feel how I'm feeling. It would be a better world. It would be a better world. And our kids with ABA can get there because ABA does that. I'm sorry, I went on and on. But Elizabeth, this has been so lovely having you on the show.
Thank you so much, Shannon. I've enjoyed being here.
And I hope I'm going to get to come to Naperville sometime soon.
Please do. We will welcome you with open arms.
I would love that. All right, well, say hi to everybody for me there, and we'll look forward to having you on the show another time.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye-bye. What a wonderful, wonderful expert. Okay, and aren't we glad that I let her talk even a little? Sometimes I get too wordy. I will try not to be as much. But anyway, we're going to take a break, and then I am going to talk some more. We're going to look at some of the questions that you guys have written in and get to our mindfulness moment for today. We're going to talk about riding the wave. Okay, stick with us. We'll be right back.
Logan Shepherd. At first glance, he looks like a typical American teenager. He plays in a band, loves hanging out with his friends, he doesn't like doing homework, and he's not really fond of broccoli. But Logan Shepherd is not your typical 14-year-old. Logan was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. He was nonverbal, made no eye contact, and his parents were told to abandon all hope. Instead, his parents began an intensive intervention treatment. At its center was a quality ABA program known as the CARD method. This is Logan Shepherd now.
All I really want to say is, I'm kind of copying Martin Luther King. I kind of have a dream, that one day, I can just, inspire people and never give up. Because, that's what I want to do in life. Because if I can succeed, they can succeed. And I will succeed.
To follow Logan's musical journey, visit www.facebook.com/officialdrummerrock or @drummerrock on Instagram. For more information on the CARD method, visit www.centerforautism.com or call 800-345-CARD. Rock on, Logan.
Welcome back. So we've got a little bit of a discussion going on YouTube that I want to address about home base versus doing things in a clinic. And we got a couple of people weighing in. Somebody said, in my experience, home base ABA makes sure the clinician has strong experience with kids, enthusiastic, and knows how to keep your child engaged. Amen to that. But you really want that whether it's in the home or in the clinic setting. I do think that in the clinic setting it's a little bit easier because those therapists have other people to feed off. They feed off other people's ideas. So I know I go into a center and I watch one therapist working with one kid and I'm learning because I only knew my kid before, right? And I wish we could get every parent into a center to go, oh, look what they're doing with that child. Oh, that's so different than what they do with my child. Oh, and look, and you see how individual it is, but you begin to see how amazing these young people are, right? So imagine if I'm that way as a parent, if I'm a therapist and I'm working with a kiddo And I see across the room somebody is working with another kiddo, and you sort of pick things up and you go, oh, or you see them working with a kiddo that you work with on Mondays, and you see, oh, that's the way they're handling that, and you go, I'm going to try that and see, can I get that kind of compliance, and the kid's so happy. And so there's a lot of learning that's happening among the therapists when you're in the clinic setting. And you have the BCBAs and the other people walking by and seeing things and stepping in sometimes and say, hey, just try it this way, so that there's like that shift that happens right in real time. So that's one of the pluses of being in the clinic. And someone else that I honestly don't know what to look for. I mean, I do private sessions in the home and in a clinic setting, but I'm always there. But if I put him in a clinic-based, he gets social skills with other kids, right? So you're weighing it out like, there's good and bad to everything, right? But that parent goes on to say, but I can't be there the whole day, and that scares me as a dad. He is my world. Well, first of all, let me give you a hug. You and I are on the same team, right? Because I was this way. I didn't have the option of a clinic setting, but I know I would have been the parent who was the pain in the neck, who didn't want to leave him at the clinic center because I want to be there. I want to know what's happening. I want to see things, and I wouldn't have been able to stay all day, right? So let me just tell you a couple of things. First of all, CARD did a study 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, because they said, we're starting clinics and we want to know, is that advantageous? Like, we're clinicians, let's do a study to see, is it on par with home-based? Or is it slightly not as good or slightly better? And this is really what they were looking to see. And what they found was that kids learned 80 to 85% faster and more in the clinic than they did at home. Now, they weren't looking at why, but we all have some guesses why. And just so that for those of you who are doubting Thomas and are like, I don't really see, maybe those kids learned better, and they looked at that too. So they took one group of kids and they were in the center, and one group of kids and they were home, and they compared them, right? And this group learned 80 to 85% more than this group. And then they said, but what if these kids just are better at things? What if it just by the luck of the draw, we happen to pick a group of kids that learn faster than another group of kids? So they said, all right, let's take this group and put them over here, and now let's just study this group, and they've been doing home-based, we already have the data on that, let's take those same kids and now put them in center-based, and we'll compare them against each other. And they learned 80 to 85% faster than they did it when they were at home. So now we're comparing apples to apples, and the numbers held out. So, and again, there are lots of reasons why we think that happens. We think that interaction with the kids, we think that the therapists learn faster from each other, we think that having the supervisors there, that programs changed in real time instead of waiting for a clinic. So adjustments were made, and they got more done. We think all those things. The study didn't look at those things, but that's what we think. But here's what I see that's the negative of clinic, is that the parents don't see as much of the intervention. So they're not, when we were doing therapy, it had to be at home. That was the only place there was. And I had to be there, or the funding source wouldn't pay for it. And what we did was I couldn't be in the room because that gets disruptive for the kid, right? Because they just run to mom and say, I don't want to do that, right? So I had a baby monitor and I sat in the other room. My finances went because I couldn't be at a job, and I was trying to do a job from home and distracted, and but I learned. I watched on the monitor. I knew what they were working on. I knew who was good at this and who was good at that. I learned from those therapists, right? And I would come out and I would ask questions. And then they would have me work with my son, and I learned, right? That's the best part of being at home. But the truth is that you can find a hybrid mix. You really can. Because if you are at a place that has a center-based, I would tell you run towards the center-based. But in the beginning, if you're at all uncomfortable, there are apps and things that you can set up a baby monitor, and you can be watching from your phone, from the car in the parking lot or from your office across town. You can ask for and say, I want to be able to do that until I feel completely comfortable. They will have to keep your child in a place where there's no other children for that period of time because HIPAA violations, you can't see other kids unless other parents have signed off. But there's a way, right? I would make myself somebody who comes to the center and, learns and does all your parent training. And then I would do a lot of community outings, which is not at home and it's not at the center. It's you going with the therapist and your child to the things in life that you plan on going to in real life. The grocery store, the Little League game, the museum, you know what I'm saying? And you go together. You're seeing the therapist interact with your child. They're teaching you how to interact with your child, and you're teaching your child and yourself how to be in the real world. That's where it's all the best. Start with, and by the way, there are still some things that you need to do at home. There are some lessons that you can't teach how to go to sleep at the center when it's bedtime. No. So there, do a hybrid. Get the best of everything. Be that parent. Advocate for yourself and your child, and get the best for everything. And there are certain ABA providers that, and even certain therapists or supervisors are going to be like, "What? We don't do it that way. Push. Be nice, but push." I'm all about that. Be the pushy parent. It worked for me. Okay, I have a son who was recently diagnosed with ASD. Daddy has learned a lot from your videos and live streams. I'm a single dad, and I'm supposed to start CARD in Portland, Oregon. I'm hugging you. I'm part of your team. You're part of my team. Question is, I've done all the paperwork. Is home based? Okay, so that was that was the first part of what we just talked about. So hopefully I've addressed that for you. I would for sure do center based, but I would for sure do community outings, and there are going to be some lessons that I would insist on having at home, the ones that are appropriate. That's what my preference would be. Okay, so I'm not seeing other, but I don't have the Facebook feed. Apologies to Facebook people. But I wanted a minute, and I think we've only got a minute to talk about mindfulness and riding the wave. You can Google mindfulness riding the wave and find exercises for you and for your child that teach your child and teach you that when an emotion comes, that it is just like a wave, that there is a swell and then it goes down and then there are little ripples, right? And there are breathing exercises and meditation exercises simply to help you to learn how to ride the wave. There are studies that have shown that when people have a visualization of the wave, that there is something about that, knowing that, okay, this is expected, that there's going to be this big thing, yep, that's that thing, and now we're on the down crest of it, and training yourself to breathe through that feeling of it. There are some people who like to ride on a roller coaster. I don't understand that, because that feeling of that, not my favorite, right? I don't want to do that ever. But some people like it because they've learned to enjoy that sensation. And the truth is that there are cognitive behavioral techniques that help you to learn that when an emotion comes, that it's like, oh, that's just what that is. I've had it before, never died from it, and now it's gone. And that kids can learn how to language themselves through yep, it's the wave. Yep, I'm feeling that wave of sadness or fear or whatever it is, and I know it's going to subside in a minute. And it's been found to be very, very effective. So especially if you've got a teenager that's experiencing anxiety, you can do some of these techniques with very, very young kids. Google and write in mindfulness riding the wave or cresting the wave or whatever, and you'll find a wide variety of different things there. And it's really helpful for our kids. So we're out of time, but I just wanted to take just a second to remind you again that it's the Infant Brain Imaging program at the Washington State University School of Medicine in St. Louis that Dr. John Pruitt heads up, and he is going to be with us tomorrow for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. You want to talk about having experts. This guy knows his stuff, and he's going to explain it to us in layman's terms. That's what I hear. And I've spoken to him a little bit. He's amazing. I know that you're going to love that show tomorrow. On Monday's show, I always like to give you a taste of Monday. We are having Bonnie Yates on the show again. Bonnie's back. And then we are having the wonderful Amy Gravino on the show. She has been on the show, but it's been a couple of years. And Amy is an autism expert and a consultant and helps individuals who are on the autism spectrum. And she is the founder of Ascot. So we are going to be talking with her about what that is, and I know that you're really going to enjoy that. That's all happening on Monday. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.